Well, we'll get started and then I think people will join as they join.
Mhm.
Thank you everyone for joining. And today we're going to talk about 5 easy inventory management tips for Amazon sellers for the rest of this year. And obviously, the rest of this year will probably roll into 2023 as well. So, lots of interesting things to uncover. We're going to leave some portion of the time at the end for questions and answer as well. So we're going to keep it moving pretty quickly just so that we can have some time for conversation, speculation. And I'm really looking forward to, working with you, Burak, and learning more
Yes,
about Forceget as well. So
perfect.
with that, actually, I'll tell you a little bit about myself first, very brief synopsis. My name is Julia. I'm the product marketing manager at Mayan. We optimize advertising for Amazon sellers. And we also have a wonderful data and analytics dashboard that allows Amazon sellers to really get a holistic view of their business. Myself, I'm based in Seattle, but I live part-time in Brazil. Pouco falo português. And
Perfect. I love
and
Brazil.
I love Brazil too. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love the food. I'm going back soon in August. I'm really excited. But
Perfect.
anyway, tangent. I could talk about Brazil all the time. So yes, and I also have here with me Burak from Forceget. And Burak, I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more as well.
All right, perfect. Burak Yolga. I'm the founder of Forceget Digital Freight Forwarder. I've been living in Miami 4 years. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be in Brazil soon, unless Julie invites me. But I lived in China 8 years before I moved to Miami. I lived in Shenzhen and Hong Kong, actually, southern part of China, like Guangdong area, where the capital of like electronics. But I've sourced. Before we started this international logistic company, I've done a lot of sourcing for big brands, retailers in Europe, UK, Middle East. So I have a lot of experience of product development as well as like B2B sales. But then my customers basically who used to purchase products from China, they actually asked me to help them with their international logistics too. So that's the way we kind of get into this international logistic business. And then we've been growing really fast, and then we have an MEOCC license. We have 6 physical offices around the world. We have a team of like almost 60 people, and we keep growing with the digital platform where we track the shipments online. So this is like a little bit about the background of me, and hopefully in this part, like we will be talking about like a lot of things about international logistics as well as inventory management.
Excellent. And with that, let's talk about what's going on for a brief moment in the world. I think we can both agree it's a little interesting right now, right? And you'll have to
Absolutely.
exactly, and you'll have to excuse my creative imagery. I would say, we got COVID. Obviously, that's been controlling everyone's life.
Yes.
We got, of course, a lot of interesting developments in China. Limitations, people shifting away from working, and I'm curious also to hear about your opinions on that as well. And of course, we have Ukraine going on, uncertainty in Europe. We have monkeypox now. Apparently, that's a
Yes.
thing. And then, of course, we have inflation. So,
Oh
kind of
yeah.
setting the stage for a lot of uncertainty. Would you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. I mean, every day we wake up to like new craziness, going on. I think the picture couldn't be explained things better. Like, and now, like there's like things going on between China and China and Taiwan. And then because of this, we see some delays at the ports in China with the departures and arrivals. So that's like every day there's like something new adding up, and then probably managing the inventory the right way, and then saving the money on international logistics is like a big part of the play right now.
100%. It's a little bit hard to do inventory forecasting when there's just a lot of unpredictable things in the mix.
Right.
So with that, what are the 5 things that we're going to talk about today? One, going back to the basics, understanding your supply chain lead time. Second, taking into account how do you align your inventory management strategy with your advertising strategy? The two are very much related.
Absolutely.
And then also exactly what do you do when you have excess inventory? Also worst case scenario. And then number 4, getting your stock ready for Q4. And then as we see that coming up will be a lot of relevant holidays, a lot of relevant events going on. And then number 5, another worst case scenario, how do you resolve your stranded inventory?
Yes, important topics.
Yes. So with that, take it away with tip number 1 on understanding supply chain lead time and not going out of stock.
Right.
And if you want me to move forward, just say next and I'll go
Yeah,
forward.
absolutely. Yeah, let's go. I mean, you know, it's been like really challenged, like 2020, 2021, 2022. The last year it was more about like the pricing and the availability. Now the prices are like lower because of the, you know, the high inflation. This way the household people kind of stop the buying. I mean, their buying power is like going down. And this is affecting obviously the demand. And if there is, because when the COVID started, everyone's stuck in their houses, and then people get bored and they start buying things like renewing their apartments or their living spaces, you know, improving. So this caused a lot of supply, and this, you know, the international logistic, the one of the most important leg, the ocean freight was not ready for this kind of demand, and as well as the trucks. So that's why we saw like a crazy peak with the container shortage. The container prices went up. The West Coast like up to like $20,000, and the East Coast $25,000. No one ever seen anything like this in their lives. And when it comes to now, the demand is lower. This time we're seeing like external facts such as like strikes, which we have been using one of our main warehouses in San Francisco and the West Coast, and in US, which is not too far from you. And we've been using Oakland port last 1 to 1.5 years. Everything has been like very smooth and great. And until excuse me, until the truckers started the strike 2 weeks ago, which caused like almost 10,000 container operation a day stopped, which we start having like 10,000 container every day waiting in the port to be picked up. And then there's like no truck coming in and out. And eventually we have 67 days strike, eventually having almost 100,000 containers waiting to be picked up, and then there's still the full capacity is not running. So there was like organic reasons with the actually like a virus, and then the human sources like went from the regular to 5 times less maybe. So there was like not enough people to operate the ports, the truck, the vessels. But now things are coming back to normal. But this time there are like other external factors that like no one was expecting. We have customers that their shipments are going to LA or Oakland, and Oakland customers now they're asking like, oh, what's going on with this delays? And now we're like, okay, this is like an external factor and no one could ever expect to be happening. So the lead time, you know, the number 2 topic is related to the PPC, which means like whether you're on the inventory, whether you're out of stock, whether you're on top of your inventory. It's really, I think the lead time is also going to affect your cash flow big time, because, you know, the raw material prices, the diesel price, oil and gas prices is one of the highest in the world right now. And then that's affecting the suppliers' ability also in China, all over the world, to be delivering the products on time with the competitive price. So everything is really connected to each other. From this slide, the most important thing will be, as a recommendation, is to understanding the supply chain and ordering the products on time, calculating additional 2 to 4 weeks delay in case, and that is going to be an important factor to negotiate with the supplier and improve the relationship, so you guys can get maybe better payment terms with them. So I think the lead time is important, is the forecast, the production, as I mentioned. For the suppliers, it's also really important, especially I talk with suppliers every day in China, and most of them are having a problem with the raw material access within the domestic market. So a lot of people think that, you know, suppliers like the factories or the manufacturer one single place, which is actually, they have like multiple suppliers in a local to get, let's say you order like a dash cam for a car, the lens supplier, the cable supplier, the box supplier, the hardware, the material, The housing is different suppliers. So each factory has at least 8, excuse me, 8 to 10 different suppliers in local market. And if one of them, especially with the chip crisis, if you're ordering, let's say, electronic, it has a lot of like problems. So you really need to be careful with the production time. The shipping, the air shipment prices are like coming down a little bit. So I highly recommend, if you guys are ordering something for the fourth quarter, maybe do a partial shipping, let's say 20% by the air, 80% by the sea, and that's going to affect directly the cash flow, and the return on investment is really important. And more importantly, again, like fourth quarter means New Year, means like Chinese New Year. Definitely, it's the right time to ask the supplier when they will be out of office, when they will be coming, how long they will be gone. And if you place the order, and then you need to ask them, when is the last time, what is the last date that they will be taking orders that they can ship out before Chinese New Year? And do not trust on that date. Definitely order 7 to 10 days before that date, because the last minute delays are happening, such as like boxes, or like finding truck is getting really expensive and difficult.
So Burak, hope I can interrupt your flow for a little bit. We have a question come in that I think is pretty relevant to here. And also to everyone, if we're not able to get you an answer during this webinar, we're happy to reach out to you afterwards. Absolutely. With a specific answer. But we have a question here. What is the current container and freight rate from China to the US West Coast, from Brandon Young? I believe, Brandon, we met recently, so hello if you're the same Brandon. But yeah, that is the question. What is the current container and freight rates from China to the US West Coast?
Right now we're what we see is that from Ningbo and Shenzhen is roughly 7,500 to 7,400, depends on the shipping line, which is the different shipping lines. Different vessels have different routing, such as either they're going from China to US directly, or they have a stopover in Korea. So, or they have, let's say we have one customer, their shipment was going to from Wuhan to Charleston, and the shipment had to stop in Shanghai for connection, and it went to the Boston port and stopover in Savannah. So it's really important to understand which shipping line they're using, because there's still direct line. Let's say Matson is like $12,000. There's indirect lines around like 6,500 to 6,800, but the effective ones are around like 7,200, 7,500 at the moment.
Got it. Thank you. And we'll move quickly since we have a lot of other tips to uncover. So next, something that I think when we think of inventory, we don't think about right away is our advertising strategy, and aligning Absolutely. Your advertising strategy with your inventory management strategy. So in particular, for example, how do you optimize your PPC campaigns when you have low inventory, or when the world is looking pretty uncertain in general? And so first of all, as many of us probably already know, like when your inventory runs out, probably get a little bit of a panicked feeling. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I'm sure, Burak, you've been there yourself. You've had that feeling. Yes. And you know that your sponsored product ads become inactive, which in turn causes your sales to go down. Of course, that's the most straightforward thing that's going to happen. But also your visibility decreases as well, just the ability of customers to find your products. And it can take weeks to recover that visibility. And then also your keyword ranking goes down as well. And actually, according, sorry, go ahead if you want to.
No, like it's really important to understand the PPC versus the shipping time. We have a lot of customers reaching out and say, hey, I'll be running out of inventory soon. When the shipment is going to check in, we tell them like estimate arrival date, because a lot of things are out of our control, and especially with the port operations. And we tell them, hey, the best thing maybe to do, like optimizing the PPC.
Yeah.
So we hear that 100%. A lot. It's very relevant. Yeah.
And technically Amazon is supposed to pause your campaigns, but it's not really a foolproof system. We've had reports where your campaigns, even though you're out of stock, will keep running. So another worst case scenario is that you also waste your budget advertising for products that you don't even have in inventory.
Right.
So with that, what can you do? And I think you're going to touch upon some of these as well. So of course, the first straightforward thing is, decrease your bids and your budget. So you want to keep your campaigns running, but you want to slow down that demand for your product. And it's one of the first things you should do. And it is a short-term solution. It's a better than nothing type of solution. And meanwhile, you also want to increase the bids and campaigns of your related products as well. So, nudging customers into the other products that you have as well. And then another thing you can do is you can optimize the product details of your page. Of course, you should do this even regardless of whether your inventory is low or not, but there are ways you can nudge customers to related products on your store. So for example, here's one thing that you can do. Of course, you have to have trademark, but here you can have like a table, for example, comparing different products to each other. In a way, you can nudge customers to maybe a more premium product that's in stock or something like that. Burak, have you ever had experience or heard of sellers doing these types of strategies as well to nudge customers in the cases where their inventory is low?
Absolutely. I mean, I highly recommend also not to turn off the PPC completely, because when you are back to the stock, it's going to be difficult to get ranked back. Amazon loves the organic ranking, but as well as like PPC spending, that's one of their biggest income, obviously. But I really agree with you, like to take care of both PPC and inventory management at the same page, same time.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't want to get to that point where your campaigns are shut off, but you want to have that gradual decrease where you're matching that demand.
That's why it's like really important to track the shipments online. Like, that's why I think you heard a lot recently, Julia, like digitalization in international logistics is really important. Probably in a couple of years, we're going to see the AI technology to enter this field that actually will decide when the people should be placing an order. There are a lot of like great tools actually recommending this, but especially with the freight companies, since we're tracking which shipping line from which port to which port takes how many days, that's going to be like the next level of integrations where we will be actually able to tell people, okay, this is the average manufacturing time, this is the average delivery time. And Amazon, and one of the biggest mistakes a lot of people are making, they think that their inventory will be fully available once the shipment check in, but it takes almost 2 to 3 weeks for Amazon to complete the entire check-in process. Because let's say you deliver 1,000 units to the West Coast, and it's going to take Amazon to distribute that within the fulfillment centers. If people go to their manage inventory under shipping queue, they click on the available inventory, they can see how many items are FC processed and FC transfer. It means that once Amazon delivers once the freight forwarder delivers the cargo to Amazon fulfillment center, it takes Amazon to distribute that within the United States, let's say, among the other warehouses, like takes 2 to 3 weeks. So you're not going to be like fully back to inventory. So a lot of people, they think that once the shipment delivered to Amazon warehouse, they think that they're going to be fully available, all those inventory, and they turn on the aggressive PPC and they run out of inventory again. So it's like really important.
Yeah, so really understand the full journey, not just that. Don't assume that Absolutely. Up until once it gets to the warehouse, you're set. It's not necessarily the case. So yeah, quickly 2 additional things. Of course, restock as soon as possible, because obviously the more you wait, the more sales you miss out on. But of course, you want to restock mindfully, because you also don't want to overstock and end up paying storage fees. And Burak, you'll talk a little bit more about practicing efficient inventory management. But last but not least, of course, being proactive and prepare for possible stockouts. As we said earlier, don't wait until your advertising just completely shuts off. Be mindful of your demand, be mindful of your inventory, and be ready for those holiday sales, which I think this year is going to be very exciting and very big.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
And last but not least, for those who are interested in our current, apparently it's an audit, advertising audit. We actually are able to integrate, with your data, and we are able to do a fresh eyes audit of your advertising strategy and give you basically free information. So worst case, if you don't sign up with us at Mayan, you're able to come away with new knowledge. And in particular, one of our customers, Lou from Bazillion, he was able to see a 267% increase in sales. On average, our customers experience a 25% increase in ROAS within their first month. So that is basically due to our expert account managers, who many of them themselves are Amazon sellers and continue to be Amazon sellers, as well as our machine learning driven technology in advertising optimization. So feel free to scan the QR code there if you're interested. Tell a friend, have that friend tell a friend. I also dropped the link in our chat. So yeah, a little holler for Mayan there, and we're going to move on to tip number 3, which is managing your excess inventory, which I'm really curious to hear your wisdom on as well.
All right. So this is like very important topic. This means like your cash is actually tied up and sitting there. Understanding the keyword, how many sales is coming from which keyword, and what will be the competitors, whether your prices are higher than the competition or not. There are a lot of different reasons why you might not be selling it. And a lot of people actually make their keyword research after they ship their products to Amazon, and they say, oh, there's a lack of keywords that actually I can make the sales from. And there's a big domination with the big brands. So there are a lot of criteria that people should be actually choosing their product carefully, and understanding the inventory storage fees, especially fourth quarter is coming. As all of you know, Amazon has changed their inventory rules like several times since the COVID started, and now the better your score, IPI score, the better it gets, the more inventory you can ship in. The inventory means like the more sales and more profit in the fourth quarter. So that's why it's like really important to understand the long-term inventory storage fees, the monthly storage fees, how many units you should be sending. You don't want to be out of inventory, but at the same time, you don't want to overship the quantity to Amazon. And Amazon, like, Julie, I think it's very interesting. Amazon has changed their mentality also as a company. They don't want to be anymore like long-term storage facilities. They want to be like fulfillment center. So that's why they have this like algorithm that run in the background. A lot of people won't be able to understand that, why they should be like sending in like that many quantity. And instead of, especially recently, oversized item, Amazon don't let them to be shipped to the West Coast most of the time. The oversized item are going to the East Coast, which transit time is bigger, like longer. The shipping costs more expensive, and the congestions are like extremely heavy in New York port. So that's why this is like very important to understand the logic of Amazon on the back end.
Great. Amazon's like, keep it moving, keep it moving. Don't park your stuff here.
Absolutely. And then, like Walmart is becoming like really aggressive in the marketplace, and they don't have this like limit problems yet, because they have like over 12,000 stores, I guess, across the United States. So, there could be like a very big player probably in a couple of years.
Oh, do you mind if I move to the next slide then?
Absolutely.
Because now we're going to talk about ways to also manage your excess in Amazon inventory.
Absolutely. I mean, the lower in the price is it's like one of the reasons, one of the actual results. If you cannot manage your inventory well, or your the PPC, or there could be like a lot of different seasonality. These are like some of the important facts to affect, like, or increase in the price. If you want to get rid of your inventory, so which means that you can get the cash back, like lowering the prices is one of the like most efficient way. It also affects probably, it increases your conversion, depending on the category. It increases your conversion, because the more, if people come to your listing and they see that the price is affordable, they probably will buy more. And this way, like, your PPC cost is also going to go low. Probably you know better than me on this. but lowering the price is one of the ways to get rid of the inventory. Create a bundle, that's a great way. Sell on other marketplaces. eBay is like really good place. I also highly recommend to do maybe expand globally. Excuse me. For example, if you're selling on Amazon US, Canada is like a really interesting option for some products. Obviously, it's important to check the keyword, how deep the keyword volumes. But there's one thing that we know, that ACOS, like competition is less. Obviously, demand is less, but the ACOS, like the PPC, CPC is actually lower than the US marketplace. So this could be like a really interesting idea of like shipping some of that quantity to Canada, unless there's a big competition. Removal and disposal, obviously that's like the last option. I would highly recommend to increase the coupon, aggressive coupon, maybe up to like 20, 30 or 40%, which also increases the organic conversion, and as well as like decreasing the ACOS in there, and sell excess inventory to liquidation companies. Now Amazon is also doing this, so this way you don't even need to worry about like removal order, like find a liquidation company. But generally Amazon like kills the price. So
yeah,
well, that's going to be the last option.
Yeah, I would think that lowering your prices, especially, I mean, in the picture, have 50%, that might be a little bit too dramatic. But I think that might be a desperate approach in some cases. But, if it does come into a timely, like if there is, some event going on, in that case, it does make sense to have like a coupon or some kind of promotion that you can do without damaging your brand, right?
Absolutely.
I also wanted to show here, as a consumer, I also don't really see bundles quite often. At least I don't see it quite often. But here's an example of a bundle, a way you can kind of nudge customers. This is an example of, hey, make it a bundle. We found 3 bundles of this item. I don't see this too often used, but it seems like a good approach, that if you have products, you can also nudge consumers to try out your other products that are related as well.
Absolutely.
So it seems like an underutilized approach.
Absolutely.
So moving quickly, so we have time also for questions and discussion. Tip number 4, getting ready for Q4. Woo, Q4 coming up faster than we expected.
Oh yeah, this year has been crazy. I don't know, probably a lot of people should have already ordered if they ship from private label brands. If people didn't order yet, they should have ordered, or they should order very soon. And also another tip could be, because right after the fourth quarter, I assume the price is going to keep increasing in China, and I think ordering now for Q4 as well as for Chinese New Year could be like a really great option to ask for a discount. But you can do partial shipments, which means, let's say you order 10,000 piece of cocktail shaker, you actually need only like 5,000 for the fourth quarter, but you also want to ship some of them like after Chinese New Year. So you can tell this to your factory, this plan, you make the deposit payment, and then you make like partial shipments and partial payments. And if, let's say, the end of year sales was beyond the expectation happen, hopefully for all sellers, you run out of inventory, you basically have ready shipment in the factory in China that you can ship out immediately, instead of waiting another 35 to 45 days delivery, 35 to 45 days production time. That could be like a really good strategy to not have like too much inventory, because basically you will be paying what you ship out from the factory. So this way you're safe on the inventory side, but you're also safe on the cash flow side. So I think this could be like a really good idea.
I've also heard that sometimes some sellers will say, oh my gosh, there's no way I can get ready and drop my prices dramatically. And consumers expect a deal, right? But it's almost psychological. So I've also heard that in some ways, a lot of e-commerce entrepreneurs will start to steadily increase their prices bit by bit, so that when they do decrease their prices for that sale, it won't eat too heavily into their margins. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is keep a mind on the competitive landscape, and that could be one strategy to offer that discount without harming your business.
Absolutely. So important dates you mentioned here, the arrival dates, the Amazon warehouse, October. But again, like definitely you gotta calculate the check-in time and FC process time. And the fourth quarter, as you know, like the busiest time in US. So you need to be like understanding it's gonna take additional 2 weeks. So, you know, the Black Friday, especially it's like really exciting date for electronic sellers. The December, the Christmas time is like the highest season. So I really think that if people have like good margins, they should be maximizing with the good pricing, the coupon, as well as, you know, the other promotions maybe, and more importantly, you know, obviously the PPC, the cost is going to increase, but it's the most demanding season. I think people should be planning ahead of time on this. Cyber Monday, probably a little bit smaller than the other dates, but I think it's time to place the order within August. 30 days delivery, 30 days production, 30 to 40 days. It makes it middle of September, and shipping to Amazon like 35 days. So the worst scenario, people will have check-in inventory by the end of October. So this is the right time to place the orders.
Yeah, it's really great to keep in mind these deadlines. And it feels like Amazon is constantly updating them, and nothing's really set in stone. For example, we only realized that Prime Day was July 12th and 13th. It was announced very quickly. And also Amazon, I'm sure you've heard of this as well. Amazon announced that there's going to be a fall Prime Day as well. And we don't really know what those dates are going to be. And kind of curious how that's going to work, like Prime Day and then Cyber Monday. So I think that's definitely something that we should keep our ears peeled for, is announcing that fall Prime Day.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can move on if you want.
And also, I guess last year, also Amazon had a Amazon Pet Day. They're kind of experimenting, I think, continuously with all these events. So obviously, if you're a pet product seller, you want to be on top of that.
Yeah, you know, every like, or Mother's Day or Valentine's Day. So it depends on the date, you know, that you're actually selling. Ordering enough inventory to meet Q4 demand. As I mentioned, it could be a really good idea to place a big order, negotiate the price bulk, but negotiate also the payment terms with the suppliers. Air shipment is always a good option if you think that you're running out of inventory or like you're getting late. It's better to pay a little bit more if you don't have like heavy items. You know, if you don't sell, I don't know, maybe a floating shelf could be like a little expensive. But if you're selling maybe a computer mouse or a speaker, it could be a good way to do the air. We generally like recommend up to 500 to 1,000 kilograms, like affordable way of the air shipments. Consider an FC process and FC transfer time, and always have the backup 3PL warehouse, which as a Forceget, we offer like 5 different locations at the moment in East Coast, West Coast, and Canada. Definitely have the options of like 3PL. Keep some of the, so imagine you have 10,000 units, 5,000 is in China waiting to be shipped, 3,000 in Amazon warehouse, and then 2,000 is in 3PL. I think that looks like the dream plan. Obviously, the managing the costs and the you know, the cash flow with this.
Yeah, definitely. And last but not least, looking at how do you resolve your stranded inventory. So for example, that's your inventory and it's stuck, it can't go anywhere. So it sounds like you've had many cases. We've had, of course, our customers and our account managers, our sellers in our community have definitely experienced this pain point.
Exactly. I mean, you know, one of the things that you really don't want to happen, especially in the fourth quarter, you know, suspending listings and the listing errors. And I think you would agree with that, is also optimizing the listing according to, let's say, Christmas time. Especially people in the giftable item sets, they should be checking out which keywords are like the best performer, the most search result. Probably the best way to check this out is on the Amazon's platform, where the brand analytics is. you can go and check out the last year and this period, last quarter, what was the most searched keywords, and maybe, you know, updating a little bit of the listing and the pictures and a content with the Christmas. I think that would be like really good way. But definitely try to do that like not in the middle of Christmas, before that. So in case if there's any listing error or listing suspend, or like ASINs has a problem, at least you find out in advance. I know that Amazon's customer service is not the best in the world. We all know that, sellers. But the fourth quarter, they got really busy. So if people are selling products and they want to do like listing optimization, I highly recommend to do it maybe middle of November. What do you see? What do you think?
Oh, what do I see? Yeah, yeah, Amazon customer service, when it comes to, you can see it's a huge pain point. Like even on Twitter, if you go on Twitter, you see people like tweeting helplessly, like, what do I do? And there's been a lot of talk on like, you know, how do you deal with, you know, these issues? And one of the pieces of advice I've heard is really be very specific with Amazon on how you're going to resolve the situation. Like I think I heard a metaphor that was like, you're not just gonna say you were speeding and you got caught speeding, metaphor, right? You don't want to just tell Amazon, oh, I'm not going to speed anymore. You want to tell Amazon specifically the steps, like, I'm going to monitor this speedometer. I'm going to, you know, put my pedal on a certain pressure. I'm going to, you want to be very specific about what you're going to do to amend the situation. And of course, prevention is the key here, right? Just making sure you have all your analytics at your hands. And I think for the advanced Amazon seller, that means being strategic and knowing when to offload some responsibilities to team members you trust, because it's going to be too much for one person, especially as you start to expand your business.
Absolutely. I agree. Yeah.
So we did really great on time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because my favorite part is always just the discussion and the questions and the answers. And so, you know, I threw in your email here, you know, in case anyone has any questions for Forceget, sales@forceget.com.
Yes.
And likewise, if you have any questions about for Mayan, or even something not related to, you know, what we talked about here, info@mayan.co. But maybe, you know, Burak, I wanted to ask you, what makes Forceget different? What is it that you guys offer that is different from what we're seeing out there?
I think the most important is the online tracking, you know, the visibility. One of the biggest things is the time difference. Let's say you're a seller in Seattle and then your suppliers in China. You have basically 15 hours time difference. By the time you wake up and then you work and they're sleeping, by the time you're sleeping, they're working. And you always need to ask your freight forwarder when your shipment is going to come in. What is the shipping line name, the container numbers, all these things are like, you know, we're the only Amazon FBA company providing this solution. We have also the warehouses that all the warehouses are actually connected to each other with a WMS where you can track it, all your inventory movement within our platform. So, you know, online payment and etc. So basically we are doing everything digital because that's where the world is going. So I think that's one of the most important key factor with our business.
Excellent. Yeah, having that information at your fingertips is very important. So I also invited anyone who is on the call to drop in their questions. So feel free, anyone who's on this call, is there anything that you disagree with? Anything that you're like, you know, hey, I
or
think
something they would like to add?
Something you'd like to add? You know, you guys are also experts here. Did we miss anything when it comes to inventory management tips? Feel free to contribute to the conversation. But, you know, in the meantime, I guess while we're waiting for any questions, wanted to ask you, like, you know, there's been a lot of discussions recently on geopolitical changes. You know, China was the place to go. Like China was a big e-commerce hub, especially when it comes to, you know, manufacturing, sourcing. And so now things are becoming more limited. People are actually recommending shifting more to the US, other parts, or Mexico even. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on what do you think of this change towards this? Is it just talk, this idea of sourcing in Mexico, or is there something to
I
be said there?
No, I think like that's interesting because there will be a couple of more events coming up. Like I will be speaking in different events, and that's like one thing that I'll start focusing on. A lot of people, they think that Mexico is like a good option. I'm sure it is. However, they are still not the enough capacity level that they can actually manufacture for like large brands yet. Or international logistics is also expensive, like full truckload coming from Mexico to US is like up to $8,000 to $9,000 depending on the location to be delivered. It's like kind of like same as full container. So I don't think that Mexico, maybe in some of the categories, it could be like really competitive, but in the long term, I don't think it's going to be. They won't be. I mean, it won't be able to like compete with China. How things are get done in China, how quick. Let's say you order 50,000 units of baby hoodie, but then you got like a big deal with a different retailer and you want to increase your capacity to $150,000 a year, Chinese factory will be able to like add like a different like 2 additional production line to support your business because they will be also making money within a month maybe. But I think the Mexican manufacturer needs to wait the production machinery from China to start doing this business for you extra. So I think you see where I'm going. So obviously it's like an interesting market. Domestic market is also interesting, but with the container price going down, I think China will be still market leader, which there was like a lot of, additional China tax in the past, a lot of production shift over to Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand. Those countries are also getting popular and strong. However, I think China will be still leading next 5 to 10 years with the production.
Okay, excellent. I'll check in with you in 5 to 10 years, and
hopefully.
well, yeah. So speaking of geopolitical expansion too, keeping in mind, I guess I'm thinking about that seller who has expanded their business internationally or is interested in expanding their business internationally. Maybe they sell in the US, they're looking to import into Europe, a European market. Is there anything special you think they should consider when it comes to inventory management for that segment of the Amazon seller who's looking to expand internationally? Anything really they should consider?
I think they should not start sending in immediately to a new marketplace, especially let's say your main product, like your main market is US. You think they ship to Canada, maybe you can do partial shipment from US to Canada. You want to try the UK market. That's one of the most popular markets because they're like English speakers. They don't need to change the product box and everything. No regulations. So Canada, maybe Mexico or UK. So like small quantities could be like shipped out like cross-border. I think it's a good idea instead of shipping big quantity and then you don't see any movement. I see that a little risky with today's world. With the shipping times and the cost of product increasing. If you want to test the market, I would start like small. But one of the most important thing is if you sell in one marketplace, you open your listing in a different marketplace, that your rating and your reviews will be transferred. So that's like a huge advantage, I think, to try this out in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
To, make some money.
And when it comes, and we've seen that when it comes to international expansion, you're in it for the long game, right? Like you're not going to see results for the first year, maybe not even 2 years. It really is going to take a lot of time and dedication. And we did a previous event where we actually discussed like Europe, and there seemed to be some contention on whether Germany actually was really a good place to start, given that UK with Brexit, things have been a little bit more complicated. But it seems like Amazon is really trying to do its best to make it easier again to enter the UK market, regardless of its EU status. So, and of course, one advantage of selling to the UK is your advertising. You need to modify it to British English, of course. But that said, you don't need to necessarily advertise in German. But that is something Mayan does. We do help you with your advertising in different languages as well.
Perfect. Yeah. Hey, I think we covered a lot of like topics that could be interesting for the fourth quarter, international logistics and inventory. I really appreciate you having me here. Like it's been really fun.
Yeah, thank you so much, Burak. And once again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Burak directly at sales@forceget.com or myself at info@mayo.co. Also, feel free to sign up for an advertising audit if you're interested in getting to know a fresh perspective on your advertising strategy. So thank you so much, Burak, and good luck with your upcoming travel and
Thank
your
you so
speaking
much.
engagements. I know they're going to be very fascinating, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, and take care.